Leadership is helping people to find a shared way forward. So it's not about being miles out in front of people. It's about walking alongside people. My goal there was, regardless of what was politically expedient, my goal there was a pretty simple one. Keep people alive and get New Zealand through the pandemic in as best shape as we possibly can. I really want young New Zealanders to stay in New Zealand, and when I speak to young New Zealanders about their hopes and aspirations, there are some basic themes that come through. They want to know that there's a future for them here.
Kia ora whanau, welcome to another podcast, very special podcast. This time not in our studio, it's been hosted by our guest. So I'm also co-hosting it with our Arti, who's our
Kia ora
guest
everyone. Today. We have the incredible, the amazing, Right Honourable Chris Hipkins. How are you today, Chris Hipkins?
I'm very good. Hi to Mai. Welcome to Parliament. It's lovely to have you here.
And very sorry for hijacking your office, but it's a beautiful space. We're very grateful to be here.
It's all right. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for making time. So when we start with any guest we have in the podcast, we start with this question, like if we give you the mic to introduce yourself. So we know you're the leader of the Labour position, leader of the opposition, the Prime Minister of the future.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, so I'm a Hutt Valley boy. I was born and bred in Lower Hutt, grew up in Lower Hutt, then moved to Upper Hutt as an adult. I've been the Member of Parliament there since 2008. Spent 9 years as an opposition MP for Labour through sort of all sorts of ins and outs, and then 6 years in government with Labour, and then had a brief tenure as Prime Minister when Jacinda Ardern stood down. Unfortunately, we didn't win the 2023 election, and so have been Leader of the Opposition since then, but very focused, as are all of the Labour team now, on winning the 2026 election, because we think New Zealand can be a better country. And one of the things that really motivates me as a politician is looking at future generations of New Zealanders, looking at the number of young New Zealanders who are just giving up on New Zealand and leaving to find opportunities elsewhere. And that is what I get out of bed every morning, thinking about, how do we make New Zealand into a country where, including my own kids, where they're going to want to stay.
Right.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Chris, can I ask what sparked your desire to lead?
I got into politics a little by accident, and you might think that that's a strange thing for someone who's been in politics for a long time to say, but it really wasn't something that I left school thinking about. I went to Victoria University. I studied political science at Victoria University because I think it was one of my mum's friends said, we think you'd like politics, you should do it. And there was a gap on my university timetable, so I, enrolled in Pols 110. And, here I am all these years later. I've really developed an interest in politics because you can make a change. And I'm a big fan of that quote, be the change that you want to see in the world. And you need leaders to stand up and be willing to lead those changes.
For sure. Thank you for sharing.
So when you were young, what age you said, okay, it's time? I want to see that change that you were talking. When was the moment that you say, this is me?
I wouldn't necessarily say there was a real moment where I decided, right, I want to be a member of Parliament. I came to work at Parliament in my early 20s to be a political advisor, and I really enjoyed that. I loved it. I went away overseas, and I came back to New Zealand just at the time that my predecessor as MP for Rimutaka, Paul Swain, announced his retirement. And so I put my name forward for the Labour Party nomination, in part because I thought it would be a real challenge for me. And I'm a big believer in putting yourself in situations where where you think it's going to be hard, where it's going to really challenge you. And I thought that seeking that nomination would really challenge me. And I didn't necessarily expect to win the nomination, but I thought this will be a process that takes me out of my comfort zone. It's going to have me doing things that I've never done before. And even if I don't win, I will learn a lot, and I'll be a better person for doing it. And then I won, and here I am all these years later, and it's been an amazing, amazing journey since that time. But it never would have happened if I hadn't been willing to put myself in a position which was risky, which was a challenge, which was something entirely new.
For sure.
And I want to just follow up question on that. So we have a lot of audience that are young people. We talk about the confidence and leadership. So if I ask you, how you define leadership for you, what's meaning that for you?
I think leadership is helping people to find a shared way forward. So it's not about being miles out in front of people. It's about walking alongside people and helping everybody to find a way that we can move forward together. A leader with no followers isn't really a leader. They're just a loner. Someone who's sort of pushing people from behind, they're not a leader either. So walking alongside people, helping people to find, how do we find common ground? How do we find areas that we can agree on even if we disagree on a lot of issues? That's true leadership to me. Politics has become far too polarised in New Zealand and around the world. You're either with us or against us. The answers are black and white. You're right or you're wrong. In reality, the world's not like that. There are going to be different arguments that have elements of truth and elements of people's own values in them and elements of sort of selective use of the facts. What we have to try and do is find common ground and find ways to move forward together.
And for you personally, Chris, how would you describe your leadership style and how do you think that has sort of evolved over time?
I'm a more inclusive politician now than I was when I started.
Cool.
Be fair to say when I started as an MP, around politics, the goal is to make noise, to make yourself noticed and to be noticed. Yep. And I think I'm a more conciliatory politician now. I don't always look at members on the other side and think ill of them just because they're on the other side. But I probably did when I started. So I've come to accept that all politicians, when you find yourself in a position of leadership, have to make difficult decisions. For sure. And being, as I was for nearly 3 years, the minister responsible for leading New Zealand's pandemic response, I realised there that there are more important things than politics. My goal there was, regardless of what was politically expedient, my goal there was a pretty simple one: keep people alive and get New Zealand through the pandemic in as best shape as we possibly can. Did we get everything right? Absolutely not. Plenty to learn. There was no rule book. We were literally learning as we were going along. Did we succeed in that objective? We kept people alive. We had one of the lowest death rates in the world. But that required huge choices and huge weight of responsibility. And I looked differently on the actions of some of my predecessors once I'd been through that experience myself. So I looked at the national government, who I'd been vigorously opposing for the 9 years prior to that. And I looked at things like the Canterbury earthquakes, and I looked at them quite differently. And I thought that was a really tough time for them. And no matter what decisions they made, they were going to be facing flack and criticism. And so I think I'm probably a softer person now as a politician than I was when I started.
I love that. And follow-up question, do you think you have any core values that really guide your leadership?
Absolutely. So I'm a believer in Stoic philosophy, which I think is a very gentle philosophy.
Cool.
And it works on the basis that you have to accept the things that you can't change. And there's no point in spending all your time fretting and putting energy into things you can't change. But you can make a difference on the things that you can change.
Love that.
So one of the questions you always have to ask yourself, and I think this is so important for younger people now in this world where everybody feels just so overwhelmed, is to take a step back and go, can I do anything about this? Is this my problem? And if the answer to that question is no, move on to the things that you can do something
change.
about, because that's going to make you feel better. For me, that's a really important value. Focus on the things that you can change. But there's a book that I read to my kids now. I actually read it for the first time at a kindergarten late last year, and I loved it so much I went and bought it. Cute. And it's called Have You Filled a Bucket Lately? And the book says that you can't fill your own bucket by emptying someone else's. But if you fill someone else's bucket, you'll fill your own bucket at the same time.
Love that.
And I think that's such an important sort of metaphor for life. You can't make yourself feel better by tearing someone else down. But build someone else up and you'll make yourself feel better as well.
Thank you for sharing, Chris.
So by that one, we're coming into I love that you're talking about the common grounds and future of Aotearoa. A lot of young people now, we can say they are uncertain in what's going on. So as a leader of Labour Party, what will be something that you will bring the young people hope back to them, that they want them to stay in Aotearoa?
No, I really want young New Zealanders to stay in New Zealand. And when I speak to young New Zealanders about their hopes and aspirations, there are some basic themes that come through. They want to know that there's a future for them here that's going to provide them with opportunities to, live up to their own expectations of themselves. They want to be able to get a good, well-paid job. They want to be able to own their own home and have the security that comes from both of those things. They want to live in a country where we value other people and we value the planet and we value the things that make life worth living. I think that's what governments have been falling down on. Those really core things about what it means to live a good life are things that we haven't done well. We focused a lot on, some big picture indicators. Is the economy growing? Yeah, the economy's been growing on and off. But are people benefiting from that growth? Is everyone benefiting, or is it just a few people who are benefiting? So I want a government that's focused, I want to lead a government that's focused on making sure everyone's benefiting from everything the country has to offer.
Would you say that currently Labor has a lot of young people aligning with the values of the party?
Labor has had a lot of support from younger New Zealanders, and I think that's motivated by alignment with our values, which are very inclusive and very future focused, but also because young New Zealanders are looking to the future, and I think we've got a longer view than some on the other side who are much more interested in just short-term politics.
Cool. Beautiful. So it's election year, and we will put it like this way. If there's should we do a 3 or 1? One priority. What will be the most policy you want to do it next day if Labour's get into government back?
I've announced 3 things that we want to do already. We want to make doctors' visits free because I want to know that people can get healthcare they need when they need it. I want to establish the New Zealand Future Fund so that we're investing in jobs that are well paid here in New Zealand so that we can keep more people here in New Zealand. I want to change our tax system so that we're moving investment away from the housing market so that people who have money to invest are just buying up all the available houses and get that invested in our productive economy so that houses can go back to what they're supposed to be. Houses are homes. They should be for places for people to live. Investments should come second.
Right, just to follow up then. Someone when you guys announced it about the doctors, said, will you make one of them at least for dentists?
We're looking at how we can better support people for, to access better dental care. It is a big issue. Younger New Zealanders, of course, have free access to dental care now right the way through their schooling, and that's great, but there's certainly more work to do there.
Cool.
I think currently a lot of young people are kind of disengaged from politics. They think that their voices are not heard, their voices don't matter. What would you say to challenge that mindset?
Democracy relies on people showing up. Decisions get made by people who participate in the process. And increasing numbers of young New Zealanders don't participate in the process. And that means their voice isn't being heard. And everyone needs to be involved if everyone's voice is going to be heard. Young New Zealanders, young voters, have a vote that is of equal weight to an older New Zealander. So vote, get engaged in the democratic process.
Do you think currently schools are doing enough to teach young people about civics education, about politics and things like that?
I think we can all do more. I don't want to put all the emphasis on schools. I don't think that's fair on schools. I think us politicians need to do more to actually get out there and give young New Zealanders a reason to vote.
For sure.
I know one of the things that frustrated me when I was a younger voter, and it still frustrates me now as a middle-aged voter, is that a lot of the decisions we make in here aren't with future generations in mind. Right. They're made with sort of short-term politics in mind, not long-term, intergenerational considerations in mind, and we've got to do more of that.
Cool.
I have 2 more questions.
Go for it.
Yes, one about social cohesion. What's your plan and vision how we can strengthen social cohesion in Aotearoa while we can see globally we are impacted in some sort of divisions or even in our country as well? Any plan there about social cohesion?
I grew up in a very multicultural community and I'm so grateful for that. I look back on the State House Street where I grew up. We had a refugee Cambodian family living across the road. We had Māori and Pacific families living in the houses around us. And then we had other kids who looked and sounded like me. And growing up with that diversity around me gave me an appreciation that that's one of the things that makes New Zealand a strong country. And we should never pretend that we'll be stronger if we all are the same. We should celebrate that diversity. It's one of the things that makes us unique. We're one of the most multicultural countries in the world. I've travelled all the way around the world, and I think we embrace multiculturalism in the way that other countries are only just beginning to see the value of. And so we should really focus on that social cohesion part. Social cohesion doesn't mean all being the same. It means celebrating each other's differences. It means me being able to go along as a Pākehā New Zealander to a Diwali celebration one day, and then the next week I might be at a Chinese New Year celebration, and then I might be on a marae, and then I might be at a Pacifica church. And the fact that I can do all of those things and be welcome in all of those spaces shows that actually we've got a lot to be proud of as New Zealanders.
For sure.
Beautiful.
That's a beautiful answer.
So that one you mentioned about refugees, so a lot of this platform, we come from refugee backgrounds. Specifically, I came from country. I appreciate the opportunity that we sit here now with a leader, and it's a great for me that we access this kind of conversations. So on that one, I want to also make sure that how the voices of marginalized communities, refugee background people are heard, are on the table, and they are not forgotten, because usually when there's a crisis, those community pay the bigger price. When you start cutting, then even that service that fund this, like refugee settlements, that will slash. That kind of service go first. So any plans, what will Labour promise to refugee communities, to ethnic communities, if they get in the government back?
The number one promise I'll make, and it's an easy promise I think to deliver on, is to continue to listen to all of our many and diverse communities. We go along to all these community events and we get the opportunity to go up on the stage and to say a few words about how great we think we are and the great things that we think we're doing. But we don't spend enough time actually listening to those very same communities. Not long after we lost the election last time, I went to the annual Gurmit commemorations, which is directly relevant to many Fijian Indians living in New Zealand. And I attended the event and I was so moved by the stories that I heard there. And we have to be much more open as politicians to listening to our diverse communities. Because how can we as a governments, whether we're the opposition or ministers in the government, actually do the right thing by everybody in the country if we're not spending time listening to them? So I think politicians who spend time listening, not talking, are often portrayed as weak. I don't see that as a weakness. I see that as a strength. I think politicians who spend more time listening than talking actually have a lot to offer.
Yeah, great.
Cool.
Last question.
Chris, if you could give one core message to young people, to our diverse communities on behalf of the Labour Party, what would that message be?
It would be that we are a fantastic country. We have an abundance of opportunity in New Zealand. There is reason for optimism. There is reason to stay here and make your life here. And if you're dissatisfied with the direction that New Zealand's going in at the moment, contribute to doing something about that.
Right.
Get involved in the democratic process. Don't just give up and leave. Stay here and make a difference, because young New Zealanders can make a difference by getting involved, and we desperately need that. I'm motivated in politics these days far more by what's going to be good for my children than what's going to be good for me. And my message to younger generations of New Zealanders, if you come into the political process, you don't have to stand for Parliament, just get involved in even the smallest of ways. Voting gets you involved. Do those things. Think about the future when you cast your vote, and that's going to give you a reason to stay in New Zealand.
For sure.
Beautiful.
And best case scenario, final question, is that if Labour gets in, at the end of the term, what is something that you would want young people and these ethnic communities to say about your leadership?
That it's been positive and inclusive, and we've given young New Zealanders more of a reason to stay in New Zealand.
Beautiful. And that's all the time that we have today. Thank you so much for your time, Chris. Thank you for your beautiful answers, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ka kite, see you next time.